Gentlemen.
And showtime.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Once again, you opened up so well.
Hey!
Welcome again. Chris, you're so thank you. Welcome, everybody. We're going to wait here as people join in, and we'll have everyone. We'll wait a few minutes, and we'll get started. I'm sure Chris will say something probably I'll have to cut out, but we'll start here right away. Okay, so let's get started, guys, because I know we'll have people come through on and off all day and as we go through this hours. So welcome, everyone, to our show on Snapping Back to Business. Today's focus will be on marketing and social media. We're super excited today to bring you some really good information that we feel is going to be very relevant as you move forward and snap back into business. So today we have some really amazing people. I'm just going to make sure my screen's still showing properly. Are we still okay there, Kev? Okay, perfect. So today I'm just going to move over a little bit before a little homework. So if you need any questions or anything you want to ask us or want to comment, there is definitely a chat box that we have here within Facebook Live and our other means of streaming. A little disclaimer to start, and we've said this to all of our shows, is a lot of this stuff we're going to tell you today may change tomorrow. So we'll do our best to provide you that information as Chris nods. Those things change. But also on this, it's confidential material, so no screenshots and no stealing our information. And we'll be happy to provide you anything if you want to contact us after today's show. But I'm going to pass this over to Chris to do some introductions. Chris?
Awesome. Thanks. So the man of the hour, Mr. Jay Ashton, he's our business resources and brand activation lead for Sysco Canada, hailing from the sunny shores of Stony Plain, Alberta. With the show today is our esteemed colleague and best buddy from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Sysco Kev is his tag name. Kevin Penner. A great resource for all things social media and all that great stuff. He's currently our marketing manager for the Prairies. He works with the culinary team as well as the business resource team out of Winnipeg. But we'll get a lot of information out of Kevin today. We're very honored to have him on today. Just a plethora of information and just a great resource. So welcome, Kev. Thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Please don't invoice us because it will be returned to you. So many have tried, many have failed. So back to Jay, and we'll just run through the agenda for today and get the show started. Back to you, Jay.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. So before we get started here, we just want to share something that we're super excited to share with everyone is our Sysco Advantage program. And this is a program that we're literally building every day, and we're continuing to provide you with third-party companies like Modern, MPP Marketing, Spiffy, all these different companies. We went out and we've got a really good deal for you if you want to join them through our Sysco Advantage partner. So you can find out more at foodiesunite.ca. Plus, we also have this up in our Snapback Toolkit, which we're going to talk today a little bit about and reference. So check them out. Lots of great resources on there. Like MPP Marketing will help you free with a website. It's a huge savings for you. If you want your website redone, you just call them up, tell them you're part of Sysco, and they'll give you a deal. Amazing company. So lots of great things out there. Check out all the other different companies that we have signed up over the last few weeks, and we'll continue to grow this side of our business as we move forward. So as we get started, I'm going to throw this back. Well, actually, we're going to start and throw this back to myself. Sorry about that. We're going to really talk a little bit about where we're going to focus today. And I think this is one of my favorite conversations. I know the last one was on menu. This one's one that I really have a passion for, and I know Kevin does as well as Chris, is really around the whole focus on marketing and where to market. And definitely when we get into social marketing, I think that's going to be huge as we move forward here. So we look at this, we're going to focus on these areas within the restaurants as you snap back into business. It's some of the things you really need to look at and make sure that your brand is very strong, as your staff knows about your brand, and everyone is in the same mindset moving forward with what your goals are within opening back up and making sure that you're doing everything you can when it comes to marketing and market them properly and building that confidence back into your customers. So you get back into business, and making money is what we want you to be doing. So I'm going to transition this over to, as we there. And this is back to me again. Sorry about that. So on this, we want to look at these areas. Oops. There we go. Got the right one. Okay. So on this, we want to really look at this and reimagine your business to what you really have to offer. We want to look at how do you operate, right? And really, have you really explored this before? Have you really looked at what and how you're operating now, and how's that going to change? And this may be where you're planning what your menu will be, identifying you for, and how does this connect to your inventory and what your customers are looking for. We also want to talk a little bit about, oops, I'm getting trigger happy there. To also how your staff's going to work and help you build your brand. That's going to be so important, how they're out there talking about your business, how they're also engaging on their social channels within your restaurant. That's important as well, to make sure you're up to speed on that. And then also how you're marketing your brand within your regions, right? With Kevin, there's a lot of that we're seeing in your area, that they're doing some really good jobs getting ready to open up. We're also promoting their brand through their patios that they've opened up, and making sure that there's a consistency there, and making sure your brand is very, very strong within your market areas. And we'll talk about some different things that you can do about that as well. And that also includes, have you opened up some pop-up shops, right? Have you done some retail? Have you marketed that properly? Are you looking to market that more as you move forward? And this is a big part and we've seen this in the past, and Chris myself has consulted for many years with restaurants, and also looking at, have you also looked at your inventory and your menu in relationship to how you're really reimagining your business? And we've seen that in the past. It's a different aspect, obviously, but have you really reinvented that and looked at that as you move forward? So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Chris?
All right. Thanks, Jay. So our goals today, Jay kind of led us down the path where we're going to go today. But today, first off, we want to help you understand the importance of marketing and social media, and how it can be your brand's voice. So this session here is just the tip of the iceberg. We just want to introduce you to some concepts and some current strategies that our team is working on across Canada. There's lots going on. I think social media has just been the life-saving device for and vehicle for everybody in the business to get their message across and to communicate and to market their business. So just an incredible amount of sessions that we've done in the last couple of weeks working with customers who haven't done social media before, and it's kind of a crash course in the last 10 weeks since we're all down in our separate areas and to social distancing and closing down our operations, and everything's changed. The world's on its roof right now, and reinventing everything as we go. So there's lots of key and core fundamentals that we're going to show you today that we think are great practices, and they're safe, sound goals and practices for us to show you how to market your business. So we're going to go through some of that today, and it doesn't end today. So like Jay said, please connect with us and any member of our team across Canada. We have 7 regions. Kev is leading the Prairies region. I'm in the Alberta region, but we have teams in BC and two in Ontario, Quebec, and all throughout the Atlantic. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're going to help you create your strategies today and help you market your business. We're going to show you some tips and tricks and best practices and all that stuff. There's lots of takeaways today, so we're pretty excited. And basically just to help you tell your story through marketing and social media, and just promote yourself and tell the customers who you are. This is it. So we're going to pass it back to Jay, I believe, and we're going to talk about some different dining connects. Dining connects.
Is that a new word, Chris?
There's our new word for the day.
I was like quickly Googling that. I'm like, oh, what just happened there? I don't know anything about this.
How do they pronounce that in Alberta? Connect.
So on that, I guess the one thing I just want to talk about before we get into this next slide is, Kev, what do you think about the importance? I'm going to throw some questions at Kevin because he's our expert today. Is the importance of people telling their story right now?
I would suggest that there might not be anything more important We've used it in our culinary centers or in our business for probably the last 12 to 15 years. It was presented to me as an only statement, right? What is something unique about you that nobody else does, right? And we've often had people shell off that, well, we have a good price and we have good food and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like everybody says that, but like in a time like this, do people know, who you are, what you do, how to get a hold of you, how, like, just like the basics like that. But yeah, I don't think there's ever been a more important time in brands.
Yeah, and I would agree, Kevin. I think it's so important people are telling those stories out there because, and I've had a few meetings this morning around this as well, is we have to understand the consumer. So the consumer base that we're really have attracted over this years, and this kind of leads into the next slide here, is that the more of the consumers that we've really went after these past few years is really millennials, Gen Z. We heard that. We did presentations. We understand that. Well, that's your market base still, right? Like that hasn't changed. Like they didn't disappear. So anyway, so you're going after this younger crowd or this new millennial, let's say, and we know their dining aspects. We understand that. We know it's plant-based. We know it's environmental, sustainable, all these different things. So we got to look at those areas. Now, to understand what their dining practice is loyalty. Loyalty for them was not necessarily going to the same restaurant. So it wasn't Norm from Cheers seeing him all the time and saying, hey, Norm, that doesn't exist in the new future. So when you look at this, we need to understand how do we also get repetitive customers when we are dealing with what we're dealing with now, right? So now there's definitely a shift. So when you look at takeout, is that millennial constantly taking out food from your restaurant? Probably not. They're probably taking, especially that area, because the ability to use third-party apps and look at the variety of different places you can order from within your area, you're less likely to have that same person order weekly from your location, unless they understand your story, they understand your menu diversity, you're changing things up, you're adjusting, and you're creating that uniqueness within what they're looking for. Because Kev, do you remember back in the days, and I think I did a show in your place talking about this, is they're looking for Instagram worthy pictures. So it shows that they're diversified within what they're getting from menus. So it's not the same thing over and over again, because that wouldn't be Instagram worthy, right? It's about having something different all the time. So as an operator, you want to draw repetitive business into your location and business, but definitely repeat, because there's definitely good money in it. And it takes less effort than drawing in a new customer. And plus, we're definitely a little less risky right now to try something new, right? So we need to tell the story so they feel comfortable and know us, so they're more likely to purchase from us.
And just to quickly add to that, Jay, somebody told me the other day, and I apologize that I can't quote the person, but they basically said, we're entering into a new trust era where the people that are going to buy from us are the people that trust us the most. And it's not assumed trust. It has to, you see everybody online now, it's posting what they're doing, the measures they're taking, and all those sorts of things. So it literally, to that point, to get them either back or to come more, there's a trust aspect that, and I'm not saying that people didn't trust before. It's just it's another level of trust.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So let's get into this. And I just want to talk about this really quick here, because I think this is a great slide. And for a lot of people out there wondering, what are people looking at and what's going to happen when we come into post, after this, and what will people look at doing? Are we going to get back to what the new normal looks like? So I'm just going to read some of the things here. So eating at a restaurant reminds me of better times. 71% agree on that statement, right? And this is from Data Essential. So this is really good information that we're getting from them. Eating at restaurants will make me feel normal again. And I'm seeing this already. And I'm hearing this also from some people even today going, I got to go back to a restaurant because I just want to feel normal again. Or going to get your coffee at your local coffee shop just to feel normal again, right? Dining in will make me feel more special once restaurants reopen, right? These are great notions that we need to look at when we're really getting ready or are opening up, to know what people feel about restaurants. And I guess I've said this before in a few of our shows, is the gentleman that I interviewed down in Miami, he said it the best. We haven't been gone long enough to forget. And I think all of us remember how great it is to dine out and to eat out. And this is And I want everyone to think about this when they position themselves to readjust their menus, readjust the way they do business, and do things differently. This is an opportunity. These notions are opportunities on how you move forward and how you navigate into this new normal, as we call it now. So I'm going to move this over to me again. So sorry about that.
Yeah, let's go
No worries. So what's your brand's voice, right? And I think this is big, and understanding building your brand. And I think this is where we see a lot of restaurants right now that are continuing to grow and to move forward, is their brands are strong, right? They built their brands, and that's about building the components that add into your brand. So supporting local, you're creating community channels, you're doing stuff for the community, you're really building a large, strong brand to know what you need to do, that you're going to be sustained within your community to move forward these different things. So there's different ways that we can look at this. What are you doing within your story being told when you get into a restaurant? So Kev, when you go into restaurants and you're at an ice cream shop I saw this weekend, right? They're telling you their story and their brand already before you purchased it. You want to talk a little bit about that?
So, okay, my apologies. Are you talking about just yesterday where we went out for ice cream? Or
yes.
I gotta say, and it was interesting. If you didn't see the post this morning, I go out of my way now, obviously, because I'm in the industry to tell their story, right? But I already knew when I went and checked online that they had social distancing measures in place. I already had a pretty good idea of what they had on their menu, right? But I still phoned ahead, and it was amazing. We got there and they had their pylons set up, and it just felt safe. And then my daughter, she's got a dairy allergy, or we'll call it sensitivity now. But yet they'd taken care of all those precautions. Then somebody says to me, well, what about the lineup? I'm like, well, they had 4 people working. Some places might've said, no, we'll only have 2 or 3. Well, they were pounding through that lineup. So it didn't look like there were a lot. Well, it didn't look like there weren't a lot of people in a small space. But today, the comments on my profile from my friends were, how did you feel there? Like, when can you imagine a time in our lives, guys, when your friends would ask you when you went out that night, did you feel safe there?
Yeah.
So did I sort of answer your question, Jay?
Well, kind of. And I think that's where they've done a good job building the brand, even the way they connected. So when they picked up the phone and they talked to you, you felt comfort to go there.
Oh, yeah.
That's the brand standards that we need to look at right now.
Yeah.
And that's how the diners, to your point, is how are you making them feel safe based on what you're doing to communicate to them about your brand, right?
Yep.
And that's talking about, and there's a lot of things you can't do nowadays, but is your signage, right? Is your signage handwritten saying, hey, we're open? Or is it done, using one of the systems we have that's a free system that people can use out there that creates a little more professionalism? Not saying that authentic isn't important, but some of these things are notions so you feel that they're really taking your safety seriously, right?
And that they've made changes. Like,
they made changes.
Yeah, it's not that I didn't think you were safe before, but things are different now. There's a different expectation, right? And so don't assume. And I honestly say, and this doesn't sound bad when I say this, but this is a difficult time for humble people, because a lot of people don't want to toot their own horns, and yet that is difficult to be like, look at how safe we are. Look at how, I think a lot of people have a hard time doing that because they're like, well, I am safe and I am clean. And it's like, I know, but yeah, this is just a new time.
Yeah. You will know the trust level, like going back to your comment about the trust. It's, I don't know, like, do I know that they're changing their gloves? Like, yes, they're wearing gloves and they got a mask on, but mask is one thing, but are they changing their gloves every time they serve me? Or is it just protecting themselves for the last 5 hours? They haven't changed their gloves. So it's a whole level.
And when we look at building our brand and building that voice, and I think, Kevin, you might have experienced this when you went out. Sorry to use that example all the time, but it starts at the front. It starts at the front door, right? So if you do have a hostess or you have a door person now opening the door for people, how and what are they saying to your customers that are coming in there? How are they welcoming them, right? Because I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now when you go out is, how do you make them feel comfortable, right? Is it a chuckle about, are they wearing a face mask, or making sure your people are wearing a face mask? How are you making them comfortable? And I've experienced this over the weekend, just some of the way that people are approaching myself when I am in some of these sessions or going to some of these restaurants is I feel comfortable because they're kind of having a little humor to it, right? They're a little bit of way that they're spinning it. So it's not so cold or odd that we're going into a restaurant that we haven't been in for a while, but we're seeing people a little bit different than they were in the past. So it is really starts at your door, making sure that you're iterating that brand. Now, throughout your operation, this is important as well, is making sure that you have, and I saw this on a show the other day, is even when you go into the bathrooms, that information about your cleaning processes is up on the wall in your washrooms. That's a part of your brand, right? And I think building your brand, and like you said it, Kev, is about the safety procedures you're doing to protect your guests, right? That's a big brand builder. You make them feel safe, they'll come back. Or, as I said earlier, we want them to have repeat business in your operation. So it's important.
Well, and I'll throw it back to you, gents, here really quick. Not that you weren't just talking, but just because of some of the concepts. I know for you worked in, Jay, in an open concept kitchen. I think again, there was an advantage, I think, with that part that you're talking about with some places with open concept kitchens, because they're like, hey, people can see right in. We got to handle everything the same way, front, back, and then therefore people branded that. Whereas I think some places that might have, and I'm not saying that places with I'm not trying to put a knock on places with closed kitchen, but there is a luxury there of what everyone sees, right? Because if I see a sign in the front, I don't necessarily see it in the back. It might be there, right? Now it's like, don't assume. Put up that extra sign, put up that extra thing. Like even at Sysco, I took a picture and I forgot to post it the other day, singing the song like, "Oh Canada," or whatever, ABCs, how long you wash your hands. It seems silly, like you said, and playful, but it actually helps, because it's like, wow, I really don't maybe I wasn't washing my hands long enough, So
when you take that, Kevin, you tie it back to marketing, it's really building your brand, all those things about what you're doing there, right? All those things that they've done, it builds your brand. And then when we talk about the other part here is staff. Your staff is a part of your brand. So if you're not meeting with them regularly at the beginning of your shift, during the shift, you're staying in tune, making sure you're close to them about what they need to be saying to the guests, how they're interacting with the guests, right? Because that's going to feel a little odd for a while. Is right when they come out to a table, what's the first thing you're going to say? How do they come back and check on your food? How are they bringing the food to the table? Those things are a part of how they're going to help you build your brand as you move forward. And I'm going to say that it's probably going to have to be consistency. There's going to have to be some sort of professionalism in how they approach that may be a little different than you have done in the past. But definitely your staff is a big part of your brand, and it talks the volumes. So going up there, and why it's important, because we've seen these experiences in the past, right? Servers come up and they're like, yeah, Howie, whatever. How do you make your customers now feel a little more comfortable in this very different times, right?
Well, and I just want
an
to
experience.
And I just want to add thing that I heard the other day. How many could say that you might have a customer say to a staff member, "Do you feel safe?"
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kind of questions that are being asked now of staff and employers, right? It's not just about making me feel safe. That people's cultural awareness, and I know we've been part of the kitchen. Help me out here, Jay. The kitchen code. The Unilever Fair Kitchens, right? And there's more. I'm so embarrassed that I screwed that up. But I'm actually happy about that part, that there is more awareness now on that other side. And so employers have to be prepared to deal with that too, right? And I'm not saying they're not, but it's another thing to think about more than ever before. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Kev, that does attach to the brand. So there is some relationship there, I would say, within the brand of your restaurant, because people will talk about it after and how they're treated and how they're taken care of, right? It's that happy staff will definitely make you a happy business, right? So it is definitely something that is important to look at as well. And I think that's why we like the Fair Kitchens movement, because it does bring good energy into that restaurant as well.
And our industry needed it, right? It needed a voice. And just to tie up this last part with Bojay, we do have a resource at Sysco. Our menu services team has been helping people with this, building the files for a sticker or a table tent or whatever. So don't feel overwhelmed with this. Where do I start? Where do I go? Sysco can help you with that. So I just wanted to tie that one up with a bow, because it can be overwhelming if most people are reduced staff right now, right? So.
And Kev, we'll talk more about the menu and marketing services that Sysco has.
Sorry.
And to everyone it's good. Thank you for bringing it up, Kev, because please, if you're overwhelmed or you don't know where to get them printed or you don't know what to do with your menus, I cannot stress, please reach out to our team and to our people. We can help you through this. We have so many resources. It's unbelievable. And if we don't have it, we'll find it, right? So, Chris, do you want to take over here? Jump on this one?
Click on the first note there. So knowing your customers. So ever more important that customers need to know your customers. So restaurateurs, restaurants, you got to know who your customers are and who you're targeting, who your target audience is. Know who your followers are. So following your analytics on your social media pages, know who's following you, know what your ratings are. And Kevin's going to go into some awesome tools that are available through ORDEREZE with his presentation in a bit here. But knowing who your followers are and why they're following you, and knowing how to market to your audience, very important. So knowing those tools and tips and tricks on what you're doing to get to your customers and getting them and lure them in and all that great stuff that we need to gain your business. So
I'm going to throw this back to you then, Chris, on this and to Kev. Is it important that your customers know what they want from your brand? And why I say this is some people have had to adjust their brand right now. So for instance, we've seen restaurants, maybe a pizza place that never done fried chicken before, but now we're doing fried chicken and people are like loving it.
Why are you doing fried chicken? I'd ask that question, like, why are you doing fried chicken?
Right. We had to try something different, right? A lot of people had to try different things here to pivot their business, to try to bring extra income, extra interest into their business. Do you see that that's okay to do if it adjusts and changes your brand a little? What do you think, Kev? Chris?
Well, I'm going to say to the folks that are against it, okay, so let's say we had a brand expert on here right now that would talk to us about both sides. And I don't know if it was you, Jay, that said this or somebody else. And I got to make sure that I quantify this, that I'm referring simply to brand right now. We are in a time of forgiveness. So if you do decide to make a pivot or a change in your business temporarily or whatever, and what I mean by that is in reference to food. Let's say you're taking on another line, you're trying a grocery store, whatever. Mm-hmm. People that are getting hung up in that's not my brand. It's just right now. Right? It's just you're trying things, right? It doesn't have to be forever, right? Now, again, you have to assess, do I have the resources available to make this shift? But I think the fact that and again, maybe forgiveness wasn't the right word, but we are in a time of a little bit more acceptance than if things were humming and you tried to do a brand pivot without the education or understanding what it is. That might muddy the waters a little bit. So anyways, that's my take.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to try certain things you don't know. And I think a lot of operations will see that in the past. This is a time that, like you said, forgiveness is there. And definitely from a dollar sense, you might find out that this product is going to make you the profitability and it's got less labor, less kitchen staff, all these different things that you can get away with. And who doesn't love fried chicken, right, Chris?
Who doesn't like fried chicken? I know when I do go for fried chicken, I know where to go. And I just want to make sure I get it, I think that goes back to the trust, and there is a level of, yes, Kev, you're right. This is a time of forgiveness, but there's also the time where you might abuse that forgiveness and trust, where you only get one shot. And
for sure, yeah. No, I was just speaking about brand. I wasn't speaking about anything else. Yeah,
I know exactly what you're saying, but it's people question when you're switching your business around for all of a sudden you're just going to try this. It's like, well, wait a minute, I came here for this brand, or
Yeah, and I think Chris, yeah, you're right. And I think he's hit it there, Chris, is trust. And we're going to talk about it here, is building your trust with your customers is going to be so important. And I think that's why it's important. And I'm glad Kevin's here today talking about social media and using ORDEREZE and all these things. Is that's your means to talk to your customer right now to build that trust that you may have it in the past, but on new patrons, right? How do you build trust really fast using social media to get those patrons into your operations right away, right? To try your products. So on this section, we're really going to talk a little bit about that, building trust, how you're using that through your social media. So let's get into that right now. So Chris?
Yeah. So just checking out what your marketing opportunities. So these are the 4 walls of marketing. So building your marketing opportunities. Comes down to building your brand. So building your product, building your business, building. This is the four walls of what you're doing there with your marketing, your staff. So your staff got to be well trained. They got to be in tune with your brand. They got to be your spokespeople for your brand. They got to be part of the business. They got to be owners. Your menu. So this is your number one marketing tool, and your restaurant is your menu. Once the customers are in, you've got them coming into your business. You got their attention. They're checking you out. You got to make sure you have a sound menu, and your menu makes sense, and the pricing is accurate. The wording is accurate. You've delivered what you brought them in for. The product is there. Your business, it all aligns with the people. It's okay. Like I've been to a few restaurants that have a very simple menu, sit down barbecue menus, and that's one of my favorite new trends right now is sitting down to a family style barbecue restaurant where simple menu. You have no idea who your owners are in that restaurant. Like they're all marketing. They all know the product. They all know the business. Like you the owner? No, I just work here. That guy over there with a plunger running to the bathroom, he's the owner. That's what drives. That's just I love seeing that kind of operation where everybody takes ownership and owns that restaurant, right?
And that was my just to jump in. That was my ice cream experience, Jay. Again, I don't know if that was what you were trying to get at. Every single person was passionate. They're like, no, we've got lots more. We can help.
Yeah. And I think the other thing on here, when we start looking at these, there was another note here, Chris, I really want to talk about is how, how you use these tools or these systems and stuff like that to really, what the word is here, is to, I don't want to say it this way, but upsell the customer in a sense and what you're going to get in that experience is. And is it okay to do those things right now to upsell and to create a new experience for customers?
Well, I don't think it's a bad way. I mean, we used to teach servers to upsell product at the table to get the average check up. But I think upselling, especially for a first-time customer, you order something and you have no idea what the beers are, so you're looking on the wall to see what kind of draft beer they have, and do you have gravy for these awesome fries? Like, oh yeah, we have. You shouldn't have to ask for stuff that's like the good server and a good owner should know how to identify needs of your customer. They walk in, like everything's taken care of. Like, can I get you this? This goes great. Good service, wine. Pairing up wine, pairing up beers, adding ups, and that's upselling right there. But they're creating their experience for you. They're not just waiting for waiting to take the order. Like we hate order takers that just stand there and just like, hey, what do you want? It's no, like this is your home. I'm here, like spoil me because I'm going to pay for it, and also I'm going to tip you on it at some point too. So it's very important to have that serviceability and up. We call it upselling, but it's just marketing.
Yeah, and I think I remember reading articles about suggested selling. And I think today, in the sensitivity of people going in there, I think suggested selling might be a great way to bring that little bit of experience that they may not be able to get in other means that they used to be able to get. So anyways, well, let's keep moving here. We're going to talk a little bit about social media marketing. This is definitely an area that I think is very, very, very big for everyone that's going to be on the call today or watching this video after. So let's talk a little bit, and this is about the millennials, right? Is really they're relying on these stats are also before this pandemic. So do you imagine what it is? So it is definitely going to increase when you look at the demand for social media marketing and more on what we need to be talking to our potential customers through social media marketing. It is huge. So, and also when you look at the amount of things that they're going to be brought through, you're going to need, and I think the biggest thing I'm seeing through social media marketing right now is being authentic in your messaging and making sure that you're communicating that through there. That's why it's okay when we do these podcasts or webinars and things like that, that we're not unauthentic. Let's put it that way. We want to be pure what that is, because I think a lot of people don't want to be sold advertisements right now. It's about content It's about how do I help my business out? How do I get a good experience? What's the food like? It's not about ad. It's more about content marketing right now. So let's move on here. So Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. So consumer engagement. So a study of 25,000 consumers across 30 markets showed engagement increasing 61% over normal usage rates. So having that social media engagement is critical. People are on their phones. They're constantly on their smart devices. They're looking and Google. You pay into Google to get frontline perks to get your establishment, your business there. And I forget what the capture rate is for the first two displays on a search. It's like the old yellow pages and white pages. How many, you go back to the old phone books back in the day, and the first couple businesses in those sections were ABC or AAA welding or AAA towing. You know, it was those that was there for a reason, because people go look up, look it up, and the first thing they say, okay, I'm gonna check that out. So making sure that you're using some search tools there. And Facebook has seen a 50% increase in messaging using Instagram as well, and Twitter is up there too. So it's making sure you're using all the proper tools to get some consumer engagement, getting that capture rate on searches on your sites. Anything to add, Jay, before we move on?
I think the thing is, I think the note here that we also have that people that really weren't on Facebook and on social media is now starting to connect back into them, right? And I think, Kevin, you've probably seen that in your world as well a little bit.
As you get into, I'm coming up here, you talk about those increases, that's where the analytics have become more important than ever. So that's going to be my little teaser there until we get there.
Yeah, and I think that's good for restaurateurs to find and look at their analytics, understand them, right? Know what they're about, because it will make a big difference in what you do moving forward. It really tells your story of what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong when it comes to reading into your data and what you're getting out of it. And you didn't necessarily have that before when you use like print ad or old traditional ways. You didn't really have to understand what that impact was unless they brought the brochure into your restaurant.
And you couldn't necessarily get instant feedback on it, right? Whereas these platforms are able to give you some, not all, but some monetizable data, right?
Mm-hmm. So. You're absolutely right. So let's talk a little bit about Instagram. And is this one of the best platforms to use for restaurateurs right now to engage your followers? Kev, what do you think as we move over?
Well, I think I gotta be careful how I say that, only because I think let's just use the example as we get up to one of our partners up ahead. I think what's important, back to something that Chris said, is as important about knowing your customer base, and I think the platform's importance is as important as what your customer base uses. And I'll use the example of Twitter. Twitter is, I would say, and I don't necessarily have stats up to back it up, probably more used in the US than it is in Canada, as an example, right? So as a customer's looking at what to use, that might not be their first choice. Now, I'm not against it, not at all. I love the instant part of Twitter, and there's many good things about it. Instagram kind of was embraced as that foodie, the place to show pretty pictures and that sort of thing, and tell a story. Instagram stories, right? And then, again, obviously Facebook, Instagram's owned by Facebook, but Facebook as well, which they actually, I personally, embarrassingly, have just really started to get into learning a little bit more Facebook, because I was kind of born into Instagram. But anyways, I'm a big Instagram guy. I love how simple the platform is. And I think if someone's going to jump into something, I think that Instagram is a great way to start. Most people are already on Facebook. And if you aren't, I still think you kind of need to have those 2 points covered. But I love how easy, concise, and clear Instagram is.
Yeah, and I think Instagram is a great way to get that message of what you're doing that day.
Yeah.
So LTO, if you're running your products and you're doing something special, an instant Instagram. Nice way to get into your customer.
No, that's great. I never even thought of it that way, Jay. And that is, but also though, on the flip side, understanding analytics will tell you what time to post. If you post your special 10 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour, even an hour before the it goes out, it might be too late. You might need to get it out earlier, right? And then just really quickly here, obviously a story. Some people, I'm surprised, but some people that are new to Instagram don't know about the story. They see these little circles pop up on the top, and they're like, "What does that mean?" Right? And those are 24-hour video clips that you can post, and then they disappear in 24 hours. Now, you can create highlights, as you can see in the middle row there, and then you can save those stories if you want to keep them for longer. I don't necessarily recommend doing it for all. It gets back to brand, the brand recognition, which we'll see in the next slide. And then your grid, which is your feed. So those are the things that you post. You take a picture of them, they're there all the time, unless you delete them for some reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, this is an amazing tool. I think you're right, Kev. The younger generation is kind of starting off with Instagram and Twitter. There's other platforms as well are coming out now, but Facebook is definitely a lot different than Instagram. And Instagram, I think, is for ease of use for a customer. Yeah. And I've all people, I've set up a couple of customers on Instagram, and I've walked them through it. It's easy to teach how to use as well. Yep. And then once they're using it, you're a professional at it after a week, because it is, like you say, that easy to use.
We're fortunate at Sysco. We use a social media authoring tool, we'll call it, which pulls all these analytics in. But a lot of people don't have that, and I'm okay with that. Now, as an example, Hootsuite is a great one. Latergram. These are social media programming tools, right? But anyways, if you look at the top, your profile visits. So again, now we're getting into analytics a little bit, right? Your promotions. Right. So you can click on that there. And that, again, if you want to start monetizing and pushing out your posts, right? Email, insights, which I think is the next one coming up. But I think it is important to understand this, right? Because this data is only as important as the monetizable sales that comes from it. It's okay. Like, if you can post too much, right? You can also not post enough. It's all about the quality of the post, the consistency of the post, and what it's calling me to do. I call it the call to action. I don't call it the call to action. It's called a call to action.
And I think that's important, Kev, because a lot of people don't think of what that next step is when they put something out. Like, what am I trying to get out of it? Especially when it's connected to businesses.
And really quickly, as an example, you can post your cinnamon buns. Hey, Sprincy. You can post your fresh cinnamon buns, right? But if I buy a dozen, I get a baker's dozen. So I get an extra one for free or something. That's a call to action if I'm actually do something. Whereas if you just post, now don't get me wrong, there's a bakery in Clear Lake, Manitoba that doesn't need to do any of that. They sell out every day. But the idea of a call to action. So here you go, here into your insights inside Instagram, right? So these are some of your analytic tools. And yes, I get it. Whoever's on the call, maybe you're part of a large group or whatever, and you have more elaborate insights or tools in this. That's great. But first things first, I'm sure there's several people on here that didn't even know what this was. Well, great. This is where you start. This is going to help you understand how people are interacting with you. So the idea of actually understanding when the best times of day to post are, and there is information out there on that, when people are engaging with you the most, right? So I got back to social media scheduling tools. Well, look at this one as an example. Friday and Tuesday are massive days, right? So should we really be doing a lot on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday? Maybe not. Like, maybe we should be getting our content ready earlier in the week and setting it up to post. Look on the right there. It's actually giving you your audience base. So like this idea, especially now with people who have had to move increasingly digital into takeout that were traditionally in a dine-in clientele, and yes, some of that is going to come back. But the idea of understanding where your customers are coming from, now, again, we've been talking about this for years on our teams about databasing. So a postal code. Well, why do you need my postal code? Well, so I know where you're coming from. A birthday club, you're going to give me a free. I don't want to give away free on my birthday. Yeah, but then I know what my age demographic is. Like, there's so many different little things that you can start using. And please reach out to our team if any of this feels overwhelming to you. We'll get to this in our next post or our next slide. But yeah, like, if you look through this here, you can actually find out which posts are doing better than others and then learn from that.
And Kevin, this is where we look at your slower days. You can push stuff on your slower days, right?
Yep.
And you're on peak areas and you're on peak times. it tells you where your opportunities are within this, right, to grow your business.
But also understanding your strengths sadly enough, just it's too bad. There are some businesses that don't necessarily understand their equipment and kitchen's strengths well enough, and so they'll do a promotion that can actually slow down their sales. Right. So understanding what you and your team are capable of is sometimes you do a promotion that might actually, the idea of efficiency on top. There's a lot to consider.
Yeah, exactly. So let's look at some examples of what a well-branded restaurant looks like on Instagram.
So I don't know if we're going to do a poll or a question here about the one on the left, but I'll throw it to Chris. He's probably going through the slides. But what do we like about Voodoo Donut?
They use a lot of pink. They use a lot of bacon.
So consistency. Right. So right. So there's consistency. There's a theme. Yeah. Right. And then you move to the right. Again, you've got a very consistent, concise there. Again, not all the pictures have to be the same, but they have a brand and there's like and on the right as well, right? So like you've got all these different things to consider. And again, for those of you that are on the call that are just coming to Instagram or coming to the social world, don't get hung up on this as far as overthinking it, but you have an opportunity to create a nice, consistent brand from the start. So that's actually an opportunity that some brands don't have. Right now, you can reel this in at any time, but it really is great to back to what Chris said. Yeah, I did say that we are in a time of maybe taking more risks than in the past, but you got to be careful that your followers understand what you're known for and what they can get from you.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely, when you look at that, there's a consistency that you see, right? And I think it's very comfortable to the eye. Right. And I think that's where it is, that comfort to the eye and making sure people go, you know what, I enjoy looking at it.
I want that.
Yeah, exactly. It's food worthy, right? Instagram worthy.
The one consistent feature in all three of them is clarity.
Yes.
They're nice, clear looking pictures. They're uniform. They're clean. So that you see a lot of branding. Like this is like, we're very consistent.
Good lighting, good. Like there's just, we could go again. We could go. We have webinars or podcasts, Jay, that we have posted on this stuff. If people want to you can get as detailed as you want about this.
And they Kevin, I just want to throw this out there, and I think you look here. Do you use the same filter on your phone? Would you recommend that?
I'm starting to. I mean, my personal one is kind of all over the place, right? But I'll tell you, I look at how our corporate team does things, and I'm trying to figure out a consistent angle, a consistent, because again, that I think if you're going to do something, you need to be consistent to your brand, right? And so what for those of you that on the phone that don't necessarily understand what filters are, you've got your option, whether it be in Instagram or on your edit on your phone. There's a handful to choose from without actually going in and tweaking the levels of all of them.
Yeah. And that's just keeping consistency of what you're producing out there. And it really is as simple as it's comfortable to look at and you enjoy it. It's not distracting or confusing, right? Confusion right now is not a good thing.
I'm very calmed, actually, by looking at all three of these. It's very calming. And then I love the polls. Yeah. I love the polls. And I only just recently really learned how to use these because I would post them before I started teaching this, right? I would do them, but I didn't know where my data was. Well, it's not, how do I say this? It is very dynamic with Instagram. So you do your poll and it's gone because you can only do them I think you can only do them in stories. And so you're clicking on it. Well, within 24 hours, those responses are gone. So you actually got to go into your story spot, like on your phone where you're posting and click on it and capture that data before it disappears. Right. Mm-hmm. So there is it's important to kind of know what you're doing here. And sometimes there's great learnings that come from this, because honestly, a lot of times I think, and Jay, Chris, I think we can talk about it in our business. We've very much improved, but sometimes we assume what the customers are thinking, but we don't actually ask them, right? And there is no better learning tool than polling your customers.
Exactly, and I think that's where you're really going to get the feedback and the advice that you need to do.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that I don't have my phone plugged in here to show you, but for those of you that know what a story is that haven't done this before, when you click on to insert something, it's right in there, and you might have to do a little bit to figure out, but it just test it, try it out, and delete it if it doesn't work, if it doesn't work out the way that you want it to.
So do you want to talk a little bit about some examples of these posts, Kev?
Well, I'll tell you, and guys, again, correct me if I'm wrong, there has never been a more important time to explain to people how to do things and what we're doing. I'll never forget one of my conversations I had at the tip of this, where I told a customer, I was trying to explain to a customer family style and doing food by volume. And they're like, we do takeout. We do family style. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if your customer base knows that though. Right? They showed individual sized food, but they hadn't, right? So the idea of actually showing people that and telling the story, then you get into the middle one here, the Italian restaurant, and that actual like explaining to people, not just telling them we do family style, we do meals, showing them and giving them choices, right, to pick from, and down. Look at like this stuff is very important. Mother's Day, family pack. Available Sunday, May 10th only. Now taking pre-orders. Like in the past, some places didn't do a lot of pre-orders, right? So explaining to your customers what a pre-order is. Jay, you probably saw it on my post over the weekend. We went to a local sourdough bakery. Well, they're only taking orders twice a week right now. Well, some people say to me, well, that's inconvenient. I'm like, there's a lot of things that are inconvenient right now, but that's how they've chosen to run their business most efficiently. We placed our order on Wednesday and we picked it up on Saturday. Yeah. It was great, right? And then on the right-hand side, taking it a step further, and because here's the thing, I'm not eating it in your restaurant right now. Give me something for my kids to do, right? The idea, one of our breweries, what a brilliant idea. They had a coloring contest, and they posted these pictures of the beer cans. Well, they were getting new brand ideas. They were getting new ideas for the cans, and I know there's people that'll have their feelings about, the age of people painting them or whatever. But I just love the idea that they were still keeping the kids involved, even though the kids don't necessarily have an Instagram account.
Yeah, and I think that's important. That's the interaction part, right? And that's about being real and allowing a little bit of fun, because we got to do a little bit of fun. And it creates a curiosity about that brand, right? It makes you want to lean into it and understand them a little bit more. And it's a great thing.
So let's jump to our partner here.
Jay, you want to jump up to ORDEREZE?
Well, I don't mind talking through it. I just wanted to get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Let's talk about this a little bit.
Okay.
So managing it. Kev, you want to jump in this one?
I'll just start. Kev is jumping. Go ahead, Kev. Yep.
Well, I honestly think in today's day and age, it's difficult without some type of scheduling tool. I really do. Yeah. Obviously, we're going to show you a partner coming up that can help you with it, so you can pay for it. And I know some people look at the cost of that and they think of, well, that cost per month, but they don't average it out amongst taking an employer themselves away from growing their business for a couple hours a day, and what that actually ends up costing them in the long run. Like it actually potentially ends up costing more, right? But the idea of signing up, even outside of that, using a partner, signing up for a Hootsuite, a Latergram or whatever, right? What's the one for Facebook? Pages, right? The idea of pulling all your comments into one place, right? Because it's okay. And don't get me wrong, there can be critical bad ones, but it's okay to make mistakes. But people are looking to how you respond. Right? Mm-hmm. They're looking to if you respond fast, and they're looking to the appropriateness of it, right? And then to the comment there about frequency of posting. Well, again, if you need to post a lot because you're posting features and you're getting stuff out of it, great, but don't just for the sake of doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because people get sick of it. People get tired of it, and then they might stop coming to your site.
Yep.
You might lose some traction and lose some credibility, trust. In other words, if you're just putting stuff up to as a platform to rant, you got to be so careful on what you post and when you post.
Did you want? Yeah, that's okay. Good. Yeah, so I want to jump ahead here. So, as an example, ORDEREZE who's a partner of ours, full suite. So, website. So they can do social media management, comments. They can help you with email campaigns. They even do Wi-Fi integration now for Wi-Fi capture. I'm probably missing a few, so hopefully Corinne doesn't hear this from there, because it really is. And here's the beauty: as you're pulling the data in, they're helping you monetize. Like they're helping you understand the monetization of it, right? So the analytics, right? And so I don't want to spend too much time here because we talked about this a little bit, but there are some major advantages that partnering with somebody can allow you to do.
Yeah, Kevin, I think this is so ORDEREZE, for everyone on the call and listening in, they're part of our Advantage program. The amount that you would spend with them is such a small fraction to invest. They're giving amazing deals right now through the COVID, situation we deal with COVID. It's worth looking in and leaning into what they're doing. They are the experts when it comes to this. They have incredible insights on how they can help your business.
Yeah, and I missed the online ordering piece as well. Like there's so many.
Right. So much you can do with them, right?
And then here you go, right? So the idea of being able to do all your posting from one place, I got to tell you guys, it's a dream. Having to go from one platform to the next, have it like even for us in our regions, right? We've got one for each site, and then we've got an Instagram and a Facebook platform, and some, I don't know, some might even do Twitter. But that idea of having it all come from one place and universally go out, and for Jay, I know we talked a lot about organic, but I got to tell you, you got to be consistent with your answers. Yes, it's important to respond organically, but you got to be consistent with your messaging because it'll send a mixed message to the customers.
Now, Kevin, is it okay to have, let's say, Instagram, Facebook? Would that be the same marketing brand, or do you brand it slightly? Different audiences?
My apologies. I wish we had it in here, but there's a great slide that basically talks about how each one has a different nuance to it, right? Mm-hmm. So you said Instagram is for this, getting a message out this way. Facebook is for getting, and even us as a company, we've gotten a lot better at it, but sometimes we get lost in that. We're like, let's just push this message out to both channels. Well, if we're not checking the analytics, like we saw earlier in the background, how do we know whether it's having any effect?
Yeah. And that's so important, right? As you move forward.
Yeah.
Perfect. So telling your story, let's talk a little bit about telling your story.
So are you talking about like on social media? Sorry, my bad.
Yep.
Is that still my slide? Yeah, I think again back to we keep using that word organic, but that natural approach, right? Because your story isn't just your food. Your story is your people. Your story is your location. Your story is your customers. Your story, like there are so many parts to it. And now, like, look at those statistics: 50% on Facebook, 40% increase on Instagram. Like people are glued to this right now. They are dying to be part of your brand and family. They want to know what's going on with you. We have some customers in our market that have actually chosen to stay closed for a few months, but they have been posting every few days to keep their community engaged in progress and what's going on and when they get ready to open. Because if you don't, people will forget about you and they'll find a new place to go. And I'm not trying to say that to be negative. I'm not trying to say that as doom and gloom, but that can happen, right? Because your digital identity can come as real or more real than your brick and mortar identity.
Yeah, and I think that's important. And here's some great examples, Kevin. Like I like this one. This one's down in Texas, that their curbside business had increased. So they put someone playing music out there. Well, you pick up your curbside.
It's awesome.
Isn't that brilliant? This is brilliant, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, and I've seen that, Kev. Was it you? Someone posted, I think it was you, Kev, actually. You posted, you got takeout and they put a letter in there.
Oh my gosh. It was the most beautiful. Here it is right here. Winnipeg. I keep it with me all the time. Winnipeg is good. Right? Yeah. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And again, our team, our menu services team, is actually helping people make those cards right now. So pick your message and we'll help you make some little buzz cards. But it goes a long way right now.
And that was right in the takeout container?
It was stapled to the bag.
Oh, it's stapled to the bag?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It felt great.
And that's the other things that you can do a lot inside the bag too, if you want to put those messages in there.
Yeah, whatever. Because one customer said to me, I said, "Do you write in the bag?" She says, "I don't have time." I'm like, "Oh, would you like some help with a buzz card or like a little card?" She's like, "I would love that." So it was just like, it's just all about time, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a nice touch, right? Oh. Very classy. Oh. Very, very nice.
Honestly, I hope it doesn't go away for some of these places. Yes, it's really great right now, but yeah.
Yeah, and here's some other examples, right, that we've seen as well as building your brand. And this is back to the relationship of today's call. It was really around building your brand. This builds your brand, right? Shows you real, shows you caring. It shows the creativity in what you're doing.
Well, and there are sites too, Jay. I don't know if we have it on here, but daysoftheyear.com, I think is what it's called. But the idea, because people say, well, how do you know all these days? Well, there's websites that have them all listed out. So but you can't do them all. Pick the ones that are important to your business. Pick a day of the week that works for you to do social media and stick to that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Post ideas. So like you're talking about that, right?
Yeah.
And this is also thing. So Kev, do you want to kind of share your insights also on safety and sanitation post? What kind of does that look like?
I don't think there's anything more important right now. And honestly, if you go to the Sysco Snapback, Sysco.ca Snapback, our partner Ecolab has helped us immensely in this. And honestly, even just if you go there to look at some of the posts and the checklists of what to post, but if you haven't seen them in your market already, which I think some people have, there is no more important post right now. Launching yourself that you're back, but also telling people what it is that you're doing and how you're doing. And then don't just tell them, show them. Show where you're using it, what you're using. It trust me, people want that, right? And more than ever right now.
Yeah. And what about also posting food pictures right now? Is it important?
Well, I mean,
when you when it comes to family meals and stuff like that, like something that's more catered not into your individual, so you're bringing them into your restaurant, more of that family style. Do you think that's important as well?
Yeah, and I've done a lot of that. Sorry, Kev, I'll take this one. I've done a lot of that in the last couple of weeks. We have a Wednesday night. We got hooked on Wednesday night takeout nights. We've checked out a few of our local customers here in Calgary area, and it's their menus online are just like slick, and they deliver what they promise. And I did have one experience on the weekend where I was kind of my wife brought the food home. I'm like, is this the right order? Like, this doesn't look like what we ordered. And we open it up and it wasn't very descriptive on their menu and what you were getting. So I was a little, it was all there. It just just make sure you're delivering what you promise, and making sure your pictures are authentic. If you're doing photos posting photos on your sites, then make sure it's exactly what you're ordering. So nothing worse than getting a complaint half hour later when the customer gets home saying, yeah, it's not exactly what I expected. How hard is that to hear? So, and I've always said this. I said this for 1,000 years: is that the worst complaint you get is the one you don't get. It's you don't get the opportunity to correct it. So make sure when you're posting stuff, it's authentic, it's ideal, it's it's your brand, it's everything that you've promised your company does.
Hey, Kevin, thanks, Chris. And then when you look at these other ways, should you post on there that you have new ways to place orders? I think that's important.
Yeah.
Yes, right? and frequently. Don't just do it once.
Every day. Everything's changing every day. Make sure you update if there's new guidances in your area or your province or your city. Make sure you update that, because people are concerned. That's number one concern is the food safety and the health and safety of yourself and your guests. Make sure that's spelled out clearly on your website or your social posts that yes, we are taking these precautions. Or like you said, Kev, be prepared. Like when you come in, you'll be waiting in line. There's dots. I went to an insurance. I went to a registry place this weekend. I had no idea what I was expecting when I got there. I was kind of upset because I had to wait forever. If I had known that I would have to wait certain, they only had 2 people working in the shop. My expectations were unaware. So making sure Starbucks has done a great job of letting our customers know when you get here, this is what you do. You put your order in. We will call your name when your order is ready, but don't they prepare people before they get there.
Now, thank you, Chris, and I agree with you, and that's great. What about offering incentive through social posts? Kev, is that something you recommend, Chris?
Well, I like calling it a call to action, but yeah.
I mean, just show this post when you get here. We'll give you 15% off. The place I've gone to a few times here for takeout has got a 15% discount for. I would have paid normal price, but just to gain your business during these times, we know we like to have you in our restaurant, but we're offering 50% off for curbside pickup because we can't serve you the way we like to serve you in a restaurant. So,
and I think. I think the other thing when we get into this and talk about hashtags here, the consistency of what you're doing is so important, right? So if you are doing an incentive this week, just keep in mind you may have to do another one next week, another one after that, right? There might be a
strategic and be smart about how you're doing it. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that also talks about hashtags, and we have that on here as well. Your hashtags have to be consistent of what you're doing. And that would also be reiterated into your servers, into your staff, into your business, into your brand. Hashtags have to be consistent. You don't want it misspelled or wrong or different. It just creates it doesn't create the power you can use with the right certain hashtag as well. And I think they have it here. Make sure your hashtags are compelling as well. which is very important.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that, right? So let's talk about, do you want to just give us a little bit more insights about ORDEREZE, Kev? Just kind of reiterate that.
Well, like I said, a total package provider, right? So it's funny. I feel like there was a time, even though it really bothered me, I think there was a time where people thought you didn't need a website. It's never been more important to have a website. People think they can run just with, well, Google's analytics, their algorithm in the background actually makes it difficult if you don't. And I don't mean that in a negative way. They want you to have a well-rounded digital identity, right? So it's never been more important to have a website. And the algorithm is looking for content and it's looking for frequency. So just having a website not doing anything isn't a good thing either. You want to make sure on a fairly regular basis you're updating. Obviously, social media is where you're going to do it. They help you manage your online presence, whether it be ordering, whether it be social media. They can do that, right? Menu engagement. And then, like I said, there's literally, they can almost do the entire suite, Wi-Fi capture, you name it. And then you got MPP, who is a new partner that we've started working with in Canada, I believe, Jay. And I shouldn't say we've recently started. I think we've pulled the curtain back a little bit for our. I think Sysco's enjoyed their support. But again, the idea that they'll make you a website. Now, again, yes, there are hosting fees and there's a menu to choose from, but they're going to help you get up and running or rebrand. Like maybe you're unhappy with the website you have, right? They're going to help you do that. They're going to help you with your marketing campaigns. People like, for I believe it's like an integrated fee, right, Jay? They're going to help you with these different things. And I know a lot of people, they want to do it, but they don't know where to start.
Yeah, we're doing a show with them tomorrow, and they're going to talk about this new branding book they have where you get together with, a community of your restaurants in your area, and you put together a mail out together of a branded book of restaurants, and it cuts your costs down hitting, 10,000 plus homes. It cuts your costs down on those mail outs next to nothing, right? Very smart. And then you create a community, and then you have and that's that back to that millennial.
And you restaurants support each other, right?
Yeah, it's everyone's supporting each other in there. So you become a part of that community in that community package. And you know what, Chris, you're reminding me of is the days, and they still have it in Banff and our national parks, where you go to Banff and you get their where to dine guide. It's got all the different restaurants in there. It's the same thing, right? And except that you may be having to have your LTOs on there or simple menu ideas or what you're featuring, and you can produce it for a fraction of the cost you would do it by yourself. So it's something to also look at with MPP marketing. I really recommend people reach out to them. Go to our website, go to Few Tuesday Night, go to our Snapback Toolkit, check it out, read about them, call them, link into them. They're restaurant marketing professionals. They're doing all the big guys. Incredible. So on that, let's talk a little bit here about that toolkit. Just to wrap up, we put stuff in here every day, Kev, just so you know, and everyone else on the call.
I don't know if I've ever been more proud, and we've done some pretty cool things as a company. I don't know if I've ever been more proud of something than this.
Yeah, so we are constantly dropping in more information in here, articles. We vet them, so it's not just stuff we're putting in there. We vet it very closely. We're going to consistently add more stuff into here. We're going to work on snapback recipes really quick here. We'll be working with our vendor community on providing that information. But we're going to continue to bring more resources for you guys and for our customers out there. We know it's hard to get back into the groove. We're just trying to make it as easy as possible. So we'll continue to develop that. Menu services and marketing services. Kev, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Well, like I said, again, we've kind of pulled the curtain back a little bit recently, right? We have a team of, I'm going to say graphic designers, menu consultants. I can't remember what their titles come up as. These people are magicians, and they're industry folks, and they understand our customers' business. It's not necessarily, and this isn't a knock. I've seen some beautiful graphic designer menus, but sometimes when you work with people outside the industry, it's a little difficult to get your message across. But here nor there, they really the part where they've helped a lot is with this snapback, helping people get little quick slugger cards out, social media posts, things for safety, like the idea, like telling people social distancing markers, all that stuff. And again, you're reaching out with your Sysco rep, and you're starting a project. Obviously, there's a timeline and a queue to this, but they're helping you. Like they're helping you with your brand.
Yeah, and it's something you get when you're a partner with Sysco. So
exactly. If you're working with Sysco, yes,
no brainer. So Chris.
Yep.
This is Chris's wheelhouse right here, people. Know your numbers. So, Chris, you want to tell us what we got coming up here?
Yeah, so great final show on Thursday, same time. We'll talk about knowing your numbers, going through cost control, inventory management, portion control, all those fun numbers we love to talk about. Inventory, cost of goods sold, all that, margins, profitability, you name it. We're going to show you some great tools, and that's a great cornerstone of our business, is helping people become more profitable and more successful in the back of the house. So controlling all your costs, your labor cost, and your operating costs. So stay tuned on Thursday. Make sure you show up for that one. Bring a notepad and a pencil. Take some notes. We're gonna run through some great resources there. So very excited.
I think the nice thing about this, Chris, is that we're not asking everyone to come with like you need to know everything about numbers.
Oh.
In most restaurants, we find out that the basics are they've been around forever, Chris.
Yeah.
And it really works. And they're really there. There's not a lot of different things when it comes to knowing your numbers. It's not like they came up with a new formula and it works it out. Prime costs came up recently in the last 10, 15 years. But it's still the numbers in your labor and your food cost, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a huge shift, but it is something that you need to know your numbers moving forward, because there's a lot of factors that are going to play into your numbers moving forward: labor and food costs, all these different things, menu prices. It is huge that you need to know your numbers. So we're going to try to provide you information. It'll also be recorded and put up.
Kev's come back Thursday.
We might have a special guest, but we're not going to announce it until we get the call.
Kev's come back. He's going to charge us. He's gonna do it. What do you call it, per diem? Or are you going to do it pro bono?
make sure the buffet table is the virtual buffet table is
absolutely.
So on that, just thanks again, Kev. We brought him back. The Sysco Kev's back. And Chris, thanks again so much, gentlemen, for being on our show and being a part of this. I guess the last thing, I just want to wrap this all up and just remember that. And I think I had it on the last two slides, and I apologize, but people haven't been gone long enough to forget. And I think that's the big key thing here is, and then also from today's call, is get your brand out there. Be proud of it. We work with thousands of restaurants each year, and we always sit back and we get excited when we go and check out their place. We try a new product that we didn't know of or they didn't tell us about. And then we hear about it, then we tell everyone about it. And it's so important that we continue to hear your stories, hear your brand out there, talk about it, and ask for help, right? Get out there, ask for help from your rep and from Sysco and whoever you're partnering with. Get out there and ask for help. How do I get my brand out there? I want to be out there more. I want to talk about it more. I want my social posts better. We're okay. We've studied so many times. It isn't a time to worry about if you know it or not. It's a time just to do it.
Be afraid, because I know for all of us, there's a little bit of fear at times. We don't want to admit that we don't know it all, right? So don't be afraid.
Yeah, I've given that up a while ago.
Well, but we're fortunate to have leaders that are constantly reminding us of that, right? So
I have Chris. Chris keeps constantly reminding me I don't know everything. Thank you, Chris. So on that, thanks again for everyone that was able to watch us. So we're going to put this up on Facebook. We're going to put it up on our YouTube channel for Sysco Canada. We're also going to put in our, we're going to record the audio file. We're going to put it up into our Spotify, into our iTunes account for our podcast under Sysco Canada. And you can listen to it if you're out there cruising around or going for a walk. You can listen to this podcast as well. So thanks again, gentlemen. We'll see everyone for a last show. And then starting June 8th that week, we're going to be opening up some cooking shows. So stay tuned. We're very excited about that as well. And we're going to stream to all of the networks out there through this channel that we have today. So on that, thanks again. Everyone else have a safe rest of your day. And we'll see you everyone on Thursday. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.